In this video, you will learn how to find the domain of a function given in equation form. Let's start with the definition. Given a function, the domain is the collection of x values such that this is defined in a real number. Let us explore what this means with this next two examples. So given this function, are the following x values in the domain of f? Well, let's start off with 0. One way to find out is simply just plug in 0. If you plug in 0, you're going to get 3 over 2. This is a real number. This is defined. Therefore, the answer is yes. 0 is part of the domain of f. Now let's try -2. Let's plug it in. And notice what we get in the denominator. -2 plus 2. That is 0. You end up dividing by 0. That's not defined, so the answer is no. Anytime you divide by 0, the answer is no. So -2 is not part of the domain of f. Let's do another example. This time we have an even root. We have the square root. So is 6 part of the domain of this function? Let's find out by plugging it in. So if I plug it in, inside I'm going to get 4. This is 2. This is a real number. This is defined. So the answer is yes. Now let's try 1. Let's plug it in and let's see what we get. If you plug it in, you're going to get -1. This is not a real number. So the answer is no. This is not part of the domain of f. The number 1 is not part of the domain of f. This will happen anytime you have a negative number inside of an even root. The number that you plugged in will not be part of your domain. Let's summarize what we concluded from these two examples. You're going to exclude x values that result in dividing by 0, like in example number 1. You're also going to exclude numbers that result in negative numbers inside of an even root, like example number 2. All right, let's do bigger examples. So now I'm given a function and they ask me to find the entire domain. I'm going to look out for the two things I need to exclude. In this example, I see a variable in the denominator. That tells me that it is possible to divide by 0. How do I find out? I set the denominator equal to 0 and I solve. The solution is -1 over 2. This is the number I'm going to exclude. Every time you have a variable in a denominator, you're going to set the denominator equal to 0, and the solution, those solutions will be the numbers you need to exclude from your domain. So therefore, the domain is all real numbers except x is -1/2. Let's do another example. This time, I don't have an x in a denominator, so I'm not going to worry about that, what we just did earlier about dividing by 0. But I do have an even root, and I have a variable inside of an even root. So it is possible to get a negative number inside of an even root. So in order to handle this, I'm not going to focus my attention on what I need to exclude. Instead, I'll focus my attention on what I need to include, what is acceptable. So take the inside, x plus 2. This cannot be negative. So if you're not negative, what are you? You are greater than 0 or equal to 0. Now you solve this. So move the 2 over. X needs to be greater or equal than -2. This is your domain, this solution here. This guarantees that the inside is a positive number or equal to 0. Now let's do an example where we see both things that we need to exclude. Here there's a variable in the denominator and a variable inside of an even root. I recommend to first handle the even root. So we're going to set the inside to be greater or equal to 0, and you're going to solve. X is greater or equal to -2. So this is where we're going to start. Let's draw a number line. Here is -2, and we're going to include, let me put the dot right above it. We're going to include all the numbers that are greater than -2, including -2. These are the numbers that work with the even root. But remember, there's something else we need to exclude when we divide by 0. So I'm going to set the bottom to be equal to 0, and I'm going to solve. Let's solve this. Well, the square root of a number is equal to 0 if and only if the inside is equal to 0. So now I'm going to solve this second equation. X is -2. That's the number that I need to exclude. So now I'm going to go back up to my number line and remove this number if it's within this collection of numbers. And it was. So I excluded. So what is my domain of my function? Well, it's going to be all the numbers that are greater than -2. Let's do one more example. Take a look at this next example. There is no variable in a denominator. There's also no variable inside of an even root. So there's nothing to exclude. Therefore, the domain is all real numbers. Thank you for watching.